TanyaMoore-Murray. She's a founder and creative director of a New York Fashion Week Designers of Latin America. This is powerful. When she texted me this, I was like, oh my God. I know, and I'm honored to say she came on this. Albania Rosario has also been featured in a Forbes magazine as a woman who created a local global movement. From Dominican Republic, let's bring Albania Rosario!
Thank you very much. Good evening. How's everyone doing tonight? I am so excited. This event is amazing. So welcome to Women&Wealth. First and foremost, I wanted to thank Miss Fredo Barber. Fredo, she is awesome. I don't think I ever met a woman that's so dedicated like Fredo. So please, let's put our hands together to give a round of applause to Miss Fredo Barber for putting this amazing event together. Thank you for the opportunity. So, I'm going to start by introducing myself. Like Jenny said, thank you very much, Jenny, for that introduction. My name is Albania Rosario. I am the founder and creative director of Fashion Designers of Latin America. This is a global platform that started almost 10 years ago. Actually, September 2019 is our 10-year anniversary, which I'm very, very proud of that. And this is a platform that started with the mission of helping our Latino designers and emerging talents to be able to make a name for themselves in the fashion circuit, especially here in New York City, the fashion capital of the world. So with that being said, Dominican girl with a big dream in the Big Apple. Who can relate? Very, very good. But tonight is not about me. Tonight is about our amazing ladies, which I'm gonna take my seat because what you guys are about to hear is amazing. And as I introduce them, please help me welcome them on the stage with a big round of applause as I say their names. Fair enough? Yeah. Very good. Okay. We're going to start with Miss Stephanie Fan, founder and CEO of Mogul. Yeah. Followed by Miss Alisa Brody, real estate broker at Compass. Maria Trusa, CEO of For Me Medical Center. TanyaMoore-Murray, Assistant Director at Nursing at Jacobi Medical Center. Kimberly Gilgers, Financial Coach Strategies at World Financial Group. Jessica Magosh, Sales and Closing Coach at JPM Sales Partners. Welcome, welcome ladies. Okay, very good. Welcome. So I have an important announcement to make before we begin our panel. I am very privileged to spend the next hour and few minutes with this beautiful audience, as I am honored to share the stage with this amazing group of females. Please, let's give them another round of applause because they deserve it. They are about to share their stories with all of us. But before we get started, I just want to say that in the middle of our panel, we are going to have an intermission break. And this break we're going to be doing something very dynamic. We're going to be doing our Women&Wealth Super Raffle. Who wants to win something? And that is possible thanks to our product sponsors that are here today. They brought amazing products for all of us. So let's give them a round of applause. And if you go to the bathroom, you might miss your chance. So you might want to stay there, okay? Very good. All right then, welcome ladies. Are we all set? Yes, you okay? Very good. All right. So, TanyaMoore-Murray, Assistant Director at Nursing at Jacobi Medical Center. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Very good. Tanya, so I heard that you grew up in the Bronx, New York, in the oldest of 3 daughters.
Yes.
Right? Registered nurse for 22 years.
That's a long time. Yes, I am.
Oh, amazing. Well, Tanya, can you share a little bit about your story?
Sure. Well, first of all, my message, what I'd like to share with you, I think it's very important that you have passion, number one. Number two, once you find that passion, develop your niche, set goals, follow your dreams, and never, never, ever give up until you reach the top. And so in my story, there's many avenues I can go with this, but approximately 20 plus years ago, I was a divorced single mom working for the New York City police department rather, and I was working for 9/11. I was an operator, then a dispatcher, and a supervisor. And it really was a job that was just a job for me to take care of my kids. I was divorced, raising 3 kids on my own, and I wanted more, right? So I actually decided to go back to school. And during that time, I actually got the opportunity to work in a birthing center. I got an internship, and it was awesome. And so they were midwives, and these women actually giving birth in the Bronx. And so I said, well, that's what I want to do. I want to be a midwife. But in order to do that, I had to be a nurse. Right? And so I got the opportunity from my job to actually get into a nursing program that was on weekends. And it was a long haul, I must say. And one thing my parents always taught me, that anything worth having is going to be hard. And so on this road, there were many bumps along the way. I stopped and started a few times. I actually got remarried during that time. Met my husband of almost 25 years. We'll be celebrating 25 years of marriage this year. And we have a blended family. So I said I was a divorced mother of 3, and he was a widower with 2 children. And then we decided to be bold and have another one. So we had 6. And so here I was, working full-time, going to nursing school part-time, being a wife and a mother of 6 kids. You can't imagine what that was like. So I actually graduated with my associate's degree in 1996 as an RN after many years. And I went further. I chose to in order for me to further my career, I needed to further my education. And a personal goal that I had was to get my master's degree, because I felt that was something that I deserved, that was something that I needed, and it would make me feel fulfilled in what I did. And so my husband always called me the career student. And so yes, I did achieve that goal. So I have a dual master's degree in nursing. My passion and my niche in the world of nursing is with women's health. And so right now I'm the Assistant Director of Nursing of Ambulatory Women's Health and Pediatrics. And I found my niche as a labor and delivery nurse, which I just loved. And I just climbed the ladder. And I'm so glad that the road I took was the road that was meant to be. It was destined. And so I learned how to mentor other people as they mentored me. And if there's anything that I can leave with you, is that, again, follow your dreams, because in the end, it will all be worth it.
Thank you very much for that. Now my next question is for Alisa Brody. Hi, how are you? Very good. Real estate broker at Compass. Correct? Very good. From Miami, with an intense background in law, Alisa brings an impressive range of capabilities and expertise to her role as a licensed real estate salesperson. Can you please tell us about your story?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for coming, and thank you, Fredo, and all these women for allowing me to be here tonight. I feel extremely honored to be amongst such powerful women. Thank you. I don't know how I'm going to follow your story, but I guess I'll start off by saying that I was raised by a woman like her. I was raised by a woman who worked really hard. My mom, I'm an only child of a single mother, who basically spent her entire life so that I can educate myself. So she worked the amount of jobs that she had to. She used to do carpool, whatever it had to do to educate me because she realized very early on, I come from a Cuban background, so you come to this country, if you educate yourself, you don't have to have a boss. Essentially, that was her mind frame. I'm sorry about my voice, I'm a little sick, I have 2 kids. It's always germ fest. So long story short, she worked her tushy off, and I was able to graduate from New York Law School in 2012. I was the first in my family to go to college. I was the first in my family to get a law degree, and I was the first in my family to move away. But something that my mom forgot to educate me on was I was raised so independently and so fierce woman, like I don't need a man, but she never raised me to understand financial freedom. So what happens? I end up graduating with this great degree. I started making a ton of money brokering because I ended up being, so basically long story short, I graduated at a terrible time to get a job. The only options I had, because I wasn't as privileged as my other friends who had attended law school for their parents to pay for their full ride, I had to take out student loans. So I graduated with about $350,000 in debt. Okay, I went to undergrad completely free. I graduated with very high honors, and I went to college for free. However, my mom said, listen, you want to go to New York, that's fine. I can pay for your cost of living, but you have to pay for your education because your school's $65,000 a year, and I can't cover it. You stay here in Florida and you go to FIU, I'll pay for it easily. I think that the cost of FIU was $12,000 for all 3 years. Huge difference. Now, I didn't want to stay in Miami. I wanted more, so that's a huge risk. If I would have known, honestly, truthfully, the cost of that, the amount of money I had to pay, if I would have met Fredo before, I probably wouldn't have made that decision because a lot of money you got to get yourself out of, but nonetheless, I'm grateful for the road that life has taken me. Long story short, fast forward. I am now down to $150,000, and I only graduated 7 years ago. Wow. Okay? I was able to move my loan from the federal domain into the private domain by decreasing and understanding interest rates, which was something that I never understood until I realized that I had to understand finances. So here I am, I graduated. I make $150,000 6 months out of law school because I put $25 million into contract because it turns out I'm really good at what I do. Great. I didn't put any money away for taxes. I spent it all because I met my husband who proposed 6 months later, and I was living in an incredible 2-bedroom in West Chelsea. And I was living like a queen. I was like, shit, I made it. I made money. I have a man who has money. And I'm just gonna chill and enjoy it. I forgot all the hard work that my mom struggled to teach me because all of a sudden I get a little paper and I am ready to just relax. 26 years old with a lot of money and very comfortable. Didn't know anything about anything. Fast forward, I have 2 kids. I have a 2 and a 3-year-old daughter. Last year I came to this panel thinking, whatever, I'm gonna go because Fredo and I are mom, friends, our kids are in school together. I'm educated, what am I going to learn? Well, guess what? I learned a whole lot. I would say that the most important thing I learned from Fredo is the idea that you have to understand your own finances. I had to understand that I'm making money, and instead of spending it, I can contribute not only to my future, my girls' future, and also help my husband. I had to realize that I wasn't wealthy until I got myself out of debt. Because you can't create wealth, and you can have all these nice things, and you can buy yourself every handbag, but what does it matter if at the end of the day you have a creditor? And I was fortunate enough to do this at 32, which is not too young, not too late. I think you can start at any time. And if I had anything to say or take away is, I think we're raised by all of us probably have a similar background. But then we meet our husbands and we think it's okay to just forget everything we've learned because you know what, they've got it. Because maybe you feel a little bit more secure. I felt secure. My mom never had anybody, but I did all of a sudden. And for once now, my husband's calling me and asking me, what should we do together? So 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 or 5. I just paid my daughter's summer camp in full myself. I didn't even have to call him and ask him. I said, you know what, I want Gabrielita to go to that camp and I'm gonna send her, goddammit. And last year at this time I was $30,000 in debt. My kids did not have summer camp, didn't have anything. And I turned my life around just by listening to maybe even 3 words that Friedel said. So if there's anything that I could turn on, I highly suggest to take that survey and I'm gonna do it this year, I'm gonna take her to lunch and hope she does it for free because I'm still trying to get out of my student loan debt, but do it because what you do for yourself, like for me, my end goal is my mom, she wasn't able to save for retirement. I'm all she's got. I am her retirement. She invested in me. And my goal, my mom had just turned 60. By 65, I want her here and retired and not working anymore. She's worked every day, every single day, just to get me what I want.
Impressive. Impressive. Very, very good. And I congratulate you for that. I think it's amazing. It's very important. So now, up next, we have Miss Stephanie Pham. Am I saying that correctly? Pham? Okay, because I have an accent, you know. Dominican, Latina, thank you. Founder and CEO of Mogul, right? Mogul is a global platform enabling women worldwide to achieve their goals and realize their full potential. Tell us a little bit about your story and how did you get started?
Absolutely. Well, I'm so honored to be here, first off. Friedel's such an inspiration to me and such an honor to be able to invest back in you all as she has invested in me and Mogul. And so I guess just to share with you my story, I'd have to begin by telling you about my family. My grandmother, who was just an amazing maverick of her time, this amazing mogul herself. She ran newspapers across Asia, working to provide others in need with information and opportunities. And I wanted to be just like her growing up, so bold and brave and yet so kind and generous, so beloved by those around her in her community. She was the first woman to drive a car in Vietnam, for example, like truly courageous and amazing.
Wow.
But I grew up, because of the war, Vietnam War, eventually, I ultimately was born in Paris, France. I was born there, had an idyllic childhood there, loved the Notre Dame so much. And ultimately, when I was 10 years old, my parents worried that because I was a minority, that I wouldn't have opportunities like those around me. So because they were watching black and white movies from America over and over again at the movie theaters, they started to fall in love with America and wondered if they should move us there. Maybe there I could have more opportunities. So at age 10, all of a sudden they moved us from Paris, France to Plano, Texas. Has anyone here been to Plano? A little bit different. A little bit like how it sounds, Plano, Texas. But ultimately, I was there and I loved it. And I learned how to speak English at that time at age 10. And I was learning by watching shows like Friends and I Love Lucy. And I could see for myself how powerful media and pop culture could be for learning and education. And then when I was 14, that was when my entire life changed. That set the course of my life to be completely different than it would otherwise have been, which was that the most horrific day of my life occurred then. My biggest role model in life, she passed away unexpectedly, my grandmother, young, and ultimately that day that she passed away, I made a promise to her that I would do everything I could to follow in her footsteps. From this moment on, I would dedicate the rest of my life working towards the same goal and mission that she had had. No matter what, no matter how hard or challenging, I was going to spend every waking moment working to provide others in need with information and opportunities too. Just like her, I would follow in her footsteps, I promised. So ever since then, since I was 14, that's all I've ever worked towards. And now I'm 15. I'm just kidding. I know I look young, and so ultimately when I was 15 though, I really did start to think about how could I follow in my grandmother's footsteps. So ultimately I saw a TV show called Gilmore Girls, and in the show, Rory Gilmore, she goes off to Yale, and even though I didn't have the money to go to college, and I didn't have the money to go even visit college, I still ended up writing them a letter, asking for a chance, if they could just let me in. I knew I could be like my grandmother, create this company one day to be like her, and then months went by and I got a fat envelope, and then they had let me in on full scholarship. And so, I ended up there, was super shy, super introverted, as I still am to this day, and yet I still, after a year went by, full of regret, never speaking up. I tried to, by the second year, force myself to speak up, force myself to be part of the conversation, put my foot forward, get an opportunity, and so just like Rory, just like my grandmother, I ended up running that school newspaper as well, and bringing it from bankruptcy to record profitability within 6 months, becoming my first entrepreneurial experience as a result, making me realize I really could be like my grandmother. And then around that time, I then saw another movie. This one was called Legally Blonde. And in the movie, Elle Woods, she was just like me. She didn't believe in herself, and yet she goes off to grad school at Harvard and she kills it. And as I was finishing my time at Yale, I thought, maybe, well, even though I don't have the money to go to grad school, maybe that's what I could do. And so I ended up, even though I didn't think I had a chance, I ended up writing a letter to Harvard asking for a chance. And then several months later, I got a letter back that they were letting me in on scholarship. So the rest of my story is then that thereafter, after Harvard, I ended up then working for a wonderful woman who actually now years later is on our board at Mogul, the president of BBC, and I ended up working for her, then later the president of HBO, and then later one of the presidents of CBS, becoming the youngest executive at CBS by age 25, overseeing TV stations, radio stations, websites, mobile properties in 29 different US cities. And then at night, to be like my grandmother, I thought about what I needed to know to build a company. So I thought, okay, strategy, business development was what I was learning at CBS, but I needed to know much more. I needed to know marketing and branding. I needed to know content creation and distribution. I needed to know product and technology. So I ended up then taking on side jobs, doing something that I hope you'll end up doing later as well, which was contacting role models and begging them to give me boring tasks, anything that they were working on that they didn't want to actually do. Give it to me, the most mundane thing, I'll do it as well. I'll do it for you. And so then I would land side jobs that way to learn, sometimes working for free, but always because I wanted to learn. So the second job I had at nights was working for the Vice Mayor of Beijing, with the Vice Mayor of Beijing, and a second job creating a venture together where I became the global head of marketing, bridging cultural gaps between US and China. And the third job I had at nights was producing feature films and documentaries with Gerard Butler and Patricia Arquette around different social issues that needed more global awareness. So I became the producer behind the first North American feature film to ever feature a man with Down syndrome in the lead role, for example, highlighting new voices into the pool, new talent. And so what happened that led me to Mogul finally was that I had all three jobs at the same time, wasn't sleeping, was working so much, loving it, learning so much, and ultimately one day Forbes started to publish a list that no one knew much about. It was very new, I didn't know anything about it, but it was called the 30 Under 30, and they had all these celebrities on it, Taylor Swift and Evan Spiegel from Snap, and Pete Cashmore from Mashable, and David Karp from Tumblr, and then they must have run out of celebrities because then they put me on the last slot. And all of a sudden, as a result, they put my email address on there by accident, which they've since removed. And I therefore got a flood of letters from all around the world, from all these young women asking for how I got my 3 jobs, and could they get those jobs too. And so I couldn't help but not just write back advice, but steps 1, 2, 3, here's what you do, 3-page essays. And as a result, they would tell me that my letter had changed their life, that they did get that opportunity or interview or promotion they never thought would be possible. And I was getting letters from Pakistan, India, Brazil, China, all throughout the US. And that's what gave me the idea for Mogul. What if, instead of sharing all this advice one-on-one behind the scenes in these letters, I could have a platform, we could have a platform whereby millions of us could share obstacles and challenges and struggles as they were doing in my letters, and ultimately be able to share ideas and opportunities and goals and dreams, and then from that be able to reach our full potential in this way, enabling all of society to reach its full potential. And so the final step towards Mogul was that I ultimately knew I didn't have millions of dollars to hire engineers, but perhaps the one final thing I could do to help all these young girls' lives was maybe the one final thing that I hadn't learned yet, product and technology. And by that I mean maybe I could teach myself how to code and build this myself. And so every single day I'd work for the president of CBS, Vice Mayor of Beijing, with Gerard, Patricia, etc., all throughout my 3 jobs. At 3 a.m. I'd be done with everything, and then I would just teach myself Ruby on Rails using a tutorial I found online called Ruby on Rails Tutorial by Michael Hartle, this PDF that changed my life. And then thereafter, after a month and a half, I was done, finishing teaching myself how to code Ruby on Rails, and ultimately, therefore, within a month and a half, I built the first very, very ugly version of Mogul. And then I sent it out to these thousands of young women following me online, and we ended up exploding to 1 million women within our first week, becoming the fastest growing platform for female millennials ever. And so now fast forward to today. Now fast forward to today, we've now since become the largest female millennial and Gen Z platform worldwide, now ranking as one of the top 2% of women-led businesses in terms of revenue, monetizing in terms of talent acquisition software, learning and development webinars, and employee engagement resources that we provide out to Fortune 1000 companies to attract, retain, and advance diverse talent from within our user ecosystem that we've created to help women support their goals and dreams. And ultimately, for every dollar that we earn, we signed a historic partnership with the United Nations to provide back free educational resources to girls and women in need for every dollar earned, so that we can provide free educational resources to 62 million now.
That is awesome. Congratulations to you. You know, it's interesting because I think it's better to just go for it and see what happens than wander your whole life wondering, like, what if I did this? So congratulations to you. She gets a round of applause. Next up is Miss Kimberly Gilgers. You know, earlier on today when we got here, I approached Kimberly and I was like, Kimberly, come here for a second. She was like, oh, serious, what happened? Kimberly, can you just, I want to make sure I get this right. How did you pronounce your last name? And she was so sweet. She was like, how would you say it? And I said, well, Gilgers. And she was like, that's cute. I like it. So it's Kimberly Gilgers, correct?
That's correct.
Very good. Financial coach and strategist at World Financial Group. Being in the financial service industry for 25 years, that's a long time, and has always dedicated herself to helping people from all walks of life build a better future. Kimberly, tell us a little bit about your story.
Wow, so I think like everybody else, my story begins from when I was a child. And I was raised like many of us here in a single household, a household with just my mom and myself. And before my mother even had me, she and my father decided they were going to move to Long Island. And they moved in the 50s, and it was a turbulent time for the family. And very quickly, my father decided that there was something else he'd rather do than be a part of our family. And it was challenging because my mother just had a high school education. She didn't have a job, she didn't know how to drive, and all she had was this house and this cute little kid, which was me. So she had to figure out very quickly what to do. And I'm all about community, and when I look out at everybody here, it warms my heart because we are a community, right? We've come together to support each other, and I hope you guys see that. And community is important to me because when I was a child, it was my community that helped my mother. So it was a neighbor who came by and taught my mother how to drive. She learned how to drive in a truck. And while he was teaching her, he had his son babysit me so that she could do that. She got her job at an advertising firm at a place called Roosevelt Field. It didn't look like it looks now, but so that was her first job. And interestingly, she did not have any way to get there. And someone else gave her a vehicle so that she could get to work. So that was my first experience with community. So fast forward, I'm going through life and my mother's doing what she needs to do to provide for me. And there were two instances that stood out in my mind. One of them was, I came home one day and she said, hey, listen, we're gonna camp. I was like, oh, this is cool. So we got the pillows, we got the blankets, we sat in front of the fireplace. She took a potato, wrapped it up in foil, she stuck it in the fireplace, and we had hot dogs. And I thought that was the best thing ever. I was so excited we were camping. And we had candles burning, so I thought this was great. Well, fast forward, now I'm a single mom of twins. I have a boy and a girl. And I realized one day that it wasn't camping. We had no electricity and we had no heat. But my mother decided that she was going to take that opportunity and turn it into something great for me to remember.
Okay.
So, as I got older, my mother always used to say to me, you have to know the rules to the game. And Fredo talked about that, right? There's a game in life being played. And the underlying component of that is money. You must understand how money works. And that's what my mother used to tell me. And as a child, I thought that she was a little cuckoo. I didn't know what she meant. But truth is revealed as you get older. And when I found myself as a single mom and raising my kids, I said, wow, I understand what she means. You have to know about how money works. So I worked in the industry for a lot of years. And you would think that someone that works in the industry has it all together. They know exactly where to put their money. They are rich. They've got it all figured out. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not the truth. Even if you're working in the industry, unless someone sits down and mentors you and shows you and educates you, you really don't know what to do with your money. So I had an opportunity, the company decided that although I'd been there for a long time, that as much as they loved me, not really, that it was time to part ways. And I want to tell you that, we all go through challenges in life, and it's really what you do with those challenges, right? So when I first got laid off, at first I was like, well, is this a good thing? I had a little bit of savings, but certainly not enough to take me for the next 10, 15 years. But here's what I learned. Every challenge is an opportunity for something else in your life, if you look for it. And that's what I did. I said, I'm going to reinvent myself. So I'm not as young as most of these wonderful ladies here on the panel. So I knew I had a lot more in me, and I took that time to reinvent myself. And by doing that, I realized there were two things that I was very good at. One was sharing what I've learned about money with people in a way where they could apply it to their lives. The second thing is that I just had a passion for helping. So when Fredo asked if I would be a part of this panel, I was so excited because this is what I do. I will share all of the good and the bad if it can help one person do something different in their life.
Very good. Awesome. So up next is Miss Maria Trusa, fellow Dominican, CEO of Forme Medical Center. From the Dominican Republic, Maria Trusa moved to the United States at the age of 15. Went from being a medical assistant at Scarsdale Medical Group for 26 years to now being the CEO of Forme Medical Center. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you.
Maria, how did you get started? Going from
Yes, very interesting story, and I have to say it in a few minutes, so it's going to be a little challenging. But before I begin my story, I want to say thank you, Fredo. And thank you to all the ladies here. Amazing stories. I'm totally inspired already. And I want to say thank you to all of you because I'm always honored and very humbled when I have an opportunity to actually share my story and to have the opportunity to inspire you. Even if it's one of you, it doesn't matter. I know that I'm impacting you and your families. So I want to say that the most important job that I have is I am a mother of 3 amazing kids. I am totally blessed to have a son that is 34 years old, and I know. My son is the owner of his own company. He's a CEO of Inmark Media, an advertising company, digital advertising. And I have another son that graduated from the University of Michigan and has an incredible job as a consultant for Accenture, which is one of the most prestigious worldwide consulting company. And then I have a daughter that is 11 years old.
Aww.
19 years later, at the age of 42, I decided that I got married, I remarried, and I ended up having my precious Natasha. And I never thought I would have a girl. So I got lucky. Anyway, so where did it start? I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic. I come from a very, very difficult childhood, a very dark and painful one. And that started when my mother decided that she was going to divorce my father, and she had 5 kids. I'm the only girl. And my mother decided that she needed to come to the United States because there was no way that she could support the family. And we didn't have places to live. We actually ended up moving 17 times because we lived in a place for a few months and they would throw us out. And we many times didn't even have food. So my mother did the hardest thing that a mother could do, which is to leave your youngest 3 children back in the Dominican Republic and come with the 2 oldest to try to create a life where she can better our lives and eventually find a way to reunite us in New York. Boy, those were the hardest years for my mother, who passed away last year. I am celebrating her life in 2 weeks in the Dominican Republic. My mother, my hero, the woman that moved mountains that were impossible for a woman her age to do. And she taught us how to move mountains. So it started with my mom. And those 5-6 years in the Dominican Republic built the strong woman that I am today, because the challenges that I faced in the Dominican Republic are beyond comprehension and understanding. I came here and I couldn't speak English at 15, and it was tough. Boy, it was tough. But I was determined. One thing I said, for whatever reason, I used to say, God, you gave me all this suffering when I was a child, but I know my future is bright. I know that I am that I was going to create this amazing life. I picture myself as an executive. I picture myself having a house. I picture myself having my children go to college, me going to college. I picture all of it, and it started with my imagination. Anyway, but I get married at the age of 17. Like, what the heck do you know at the age of 17? Not much. But I took that on. I married a Dominican, a man that knew how to suppress me, but I became free 10 years later. And I became a single mom. I had my first child when I was 20, Franco, and it was very difficult for me, because I realized that I come from a very broken place, and now I have these little lives that I'm responsible for. And that, to me, things got a little bit more intense. They became my catalyst. They became my force. And I said, I gotta create a life for them. I'm going to leave, and I'm gonna figure it out. I left, and I was making $20,000 a year. But I was in a place, I started as a medical assistant, and I saw opportunities, and I started planning my exiting. I decided I'm gonna leave. I've already put up with 10 years of misery. I'm gonna leave when I'm ready. Not when not with emotions. When I'm ready, I will leave. So I prepared myself, and I saw the opportunity as Carson Medical Group. Believe it or not, this little Dominican with a very heavy accent, because my accent is a little bit better, but it's the flavor that I carry of my culture. So amazing. I am proud of this accent. When people say, they told my kids, your mother has a beautiful accent, my kids said, she doesn't have an accent, and because this is what they're used to hearing all the time. Anyway, so I became a medical assistant, and I started seeing opportunities at this practice of Jewish doctors. Very smart doctors, went to the best medical schools, and I end up realizing that I could be more than a medical assistant here. So I started taking responsibility. You know how people say, that's not my job? I would say, that's my job, that's my job, this is my job. You want me to do that? Fine. You want me to clean? I don't care. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. They didn't know what to do with me. They were like, what the heck is wrong with her? The staff thought something was wrong with me. But anyway, 2 years later, as a medical assistant, I become the manager of this place. Thank you. 2 years later, I become the executive director. I reached my dream then, but my dream just got started when I got that position. And I developed a practice from 7 doctors to 50 doctors, from 10,000 square feet of medical space to 80,000 medical square feet of medical space. But I took it from 35 employees to 250 employees.
Absolutely.
And from a few million to a lot of millions. And my job started to grow, and I started to, my kids' freedom. I'll tell you one story very quick. There was a woman, because there's many people in your trajectory that affect your life in the most incredible way. And these are the people that together make you successful. My success is, it's many, many people have helped me reach that. There's a woman called Gloria who is a Mexican lady, the most beautiful woman, like a sister to me, that when I was getting a divorce, she was my babysitter. And I said to her, Gloria, she lived with me, I cannot afford you. But she said, but you need to leave. And I am going to support you. So Gloria decided to, she said, take a loan. You don't have to pay me because I believe in you so much that in a year you are going to pay me the loan that I gave you. And I paid her $25 a week for 1 year. And 1 year later, I get my first bonus, and I gave Gloria her money, and she bought a house in Mexico for her parents.
Wow, congratulations. Very, very awesome story. Now, next up is Miss Jessica Maguch, last but not least, Sales and Closing Coach at JPM Sales Partners. Welcome. Born in Queens, New York, the second oldest in a family of 5, Jessica is a creator and coach at the Sales Launch Code, a step-by-step accelerator and coaching program that teaches entrepreneurs how to sell without being picky. Listen to this. This is very interesting.
Who here likes to sell? Awesome. Go talk to Fredo after. I am Jessica Maguch. I'm a sales coach and closing coach. I teach people how to close deals. But that's just the surface level of what I do. I grew up in Queens, New York. I was second oldest of 5, and my father was a very successful businessman in New York for what he thought was a successful businessman. He ran 3 wholesale stores where he would show up at the dockyards and he would take whatever was left over and then he would sell them in the stores. Before like Odd Lots was around. It was one of the first Odd Lots. Well, it was very successful with 3 stores in Brooklyn, at least according to his family's standards. And what does someone in the 80s do when they make millions of dollars? Put it up their nose. So, it's not funny, but it was the 80s. So he lost the stores. He went into like over $100,000 in debt. My mom kicked him out, and we went on welfare. My mom was working full time with 5 kids, 3 under the age of 2. Yeah, we had twins and one, and they were close together. And so I was changing diapers at 8 years old and warming up bottles in the middle of the night and all that. And but it's not a total sad story. So my father went to rehab. He went to this rehab that took 2 years for him to get through. And when he came back, he got a job in sales. He saw an ad in the newspaper that said opportunity of a lifetime. And he actually went on the interview. Like, I would never respond to an ad that said opportunity of a lifetime. But he did, because where he was at in his life. And he learned the art of selling there, and he grew 1,000+ people, women and men, sales organizations, brought multiple companies public, rang the bell at the stock exchange, all because he learned this skill from scratch. Now, he didn't need an education, any special education, didn't particularly need any money or any special skills. And he was able to completely transform our lives, and he wrote a book about it called The Spirituality of Success, Getting Rich with Integrity. So, yes, pick it up. It's on Amazon. I actually typed it on my on the word processor, because And so I went to school for theater. I wanted to be an actor, but not good with mics. So that didn't work out. But I was auditioning in New York after I went to college, and my dad gave me the opportunity of a lifetime. He said he was building a new startup in New York, and he said, "Come work for me, as my sales assistant. I'll pay you $10 an hour or something, whatever it was. And you can audition as much as you want. I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. We had since moved to Pennsylvania to start a new life. And you could come and live with me in my Battery Park City apartment for free. Where's the negative in that? Except the sales part, which I never wanted to be in sales. So I went, I helped him as an assistant, and I started learning the art of selling, and then I realized it really wasn't that hard. You just had to keep following up with people and really be in a position to help them. And he took me under his wing, and as a father of four daughters, I remember him telling me once, he said, you know, when I realized I had 4 daughters and one son who wanted to be a photographer, that I needed to teach my daughters business. And so I'm proud to be one of the first generation of women who were taught by our fathers and all our male mentors who went before us to pass down the art of business and building business and how money works. But the most important thing that I learned from my father in learning how to develop teams was how to help people change their perception of the world around them, which in result changed their reality. And so to me, coaching is so much more than teaching people techniques and skills. Yeah, you come to me to help close deals, but we work on a lot more than that. And even in the lifestyle that I had ended up growing up with, I had some very deep-seated beliefs about money that were holding me back. I was very stuck at about, when I was just about to hit my first 100K, I think I was 26 years old, and I was the highest performer in the company. I was the only woman leader. I ended up getting promoted, built a team of 30 people. We did over $40 million a year in annual recurring revenue in under 3 years, so built that from scratch. I recruited 30 people, mostly women, full-time, under me. But I had this big problem that, and when I found the solution to it, launched me from 6 figures to 7 figures, and then eventually brought in 9 figures total. And I want to share with you the exercise that my father used to do with his teams that he passed on to me to share with you. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. And because it's the theme tonight, I want you to, I'm going to give you a sentence, and there's going to be a blank at the end of the sentence. And I want you to think of the first word that comes into your mind when I say the sentence. And don't think about it. Don't judge whatever word comes out. The whole point is just to let it be the first word. Cool? Ready? Okay. Rich people are...
Rich.
Okay, don't change your answer. Can you guys start yelling out some of the answers you got?
Crazy.
Obnoxious. That's
Yes,
what I was
crazy.
getting in my-
Crazy.
I'll tell you, I couldn't really hear some of the words, but I'll tell you what came to my mind first was selfish. The
Oh, I like
first
that.
word that came to my mind.
I like that.
And then, did anybody else have any words like that?
Yeah, I think that's crazy.
Assholes.
Obnoxious.
Crazy. Frugal.
Now, if I did this in a room of people who weren't as wealth educated as you guys, most of the answers would be negative, right? They're jerks, they're assholes, they're selfish, annoying, pushy. So, do you want to be rich? But you can see how it was holding me back and how it holds so many people back. Their deep-seated beliefs about what you really feel about money, and I purposely used the word rich and not wealthy in that exercise for a reason. So this is some of the things that we work on in our practice, right? When people have trouble closing deals, it usually goes back to their relationship with money. And when you learn how to control your mind and your thoughts and your perceptions, you can control any part of your life. This goes way beyond sales, right? Anxiety, probably cured my own anxiety and depression with being able to learn how to control my thoughts and my perceptions, which then changed my reality. So thank you for having me here.
Very, very good. That was awesome. Thank you all very much. So now, I'm going to stand up, and I want everybody to stand up as well.